Do you ever look at someone and just wonder, what are you thinking? We're gonna have a look at 10 clueless criminals that are gonna make you think, what the heck? At number 10, we have Joey Miller and Matthew McNeely. So these two got really creative when it came to the disguise that they were gonna use to commit their crime. Clearly these two wanted to be original, so instead of going the route of wearing a mask like most robbers would, they chose to draw on their face with permanent marker. While initially it might have made it hard to be recognized, there is a reason why the word permanent is in the name of permanent markers. It doesn't come off that easily. So I know we're all shocked here, but it was easy to identify them when the police were looking for them. And their silly stunt ended up giving them the nickname of Dumb and Dumber. Personally though, I think that's an actual insult to Lloyd and Harry.
We usually don't pick up hitchhikers, but I'm gonna go with my instinct on this one. Saddle up, partner.
At number 9, we have Mark Smith. Robbing houses can be exhausting, but most criminals would wait to take a nap till they got home. Not Mark though. So in 2007, when he was high on several things, he decided to break into a home, and since he was likely feeling the side effects of the drugs and alcohol he had consumed, he curled up for a nap in the homeowner's bed. He was woken up by the police and sentenced to 18 months in jail. That situation sounded like a nightmare. Number 8, at a bus stop in St. Paul, Minnesota, Justin John Bowden, a hot-tempered man, was involved in an argument with a woman who he cowardly punched in the face. He then attacked another person who was standing there, which caused him to drop a folder to the ground. When fleeing, he forgot to pick it up, and when the cops showed up a few minutes later, they were able to easily track him because of the information in that folder. You will never guess what was in the folder. His anger management homework. Clearly, he hasn't been paying attention in class. So not only is robbing houses very tiring, it also makes you super thirsty. At number 7, we have a thief in Portland, Oregon. He broke into a house, went through every inch of the property, opened all the drawers, and stole everything of value he can find without leaving any fingerprints. He had committed the perfect crime. That was until he got thirsty. So during his robbing activities, he opened the fridge, grabbed a container of orange juice, took a big sip, and left that container in the sink. Of course, they tested the container for DNA, and he was ultimately arrested. So clearly the lesson here is, if you're gonna rob a house, make sure you bring your own drinks. At number 6, we have a young man from Jenkins, Kentucky named Michael Baker. In 2012, he decided that his small town needed some publicity, so after he siphoned gas from a local police car, he posed next to it with a smile while also proudly giving the middle finger for the camera and then posted it to his Facebook. Sadly, the publicity he wanted didn't go as planned. His photo did go viral with thousands of views, but a couple of days later, the police knocked on his door and arrested him. When will criminals learn to stay off of social media? At number 5, we have Aaron Morrison, the shoplifting Casanova. After Aaron stole a bottle of vodka from a liquor store, he actually had the nerve to flirt with the shop clerk and gave her his name and number. Well, instead of calling him back, she called the cops on him. This guy should probably try online dating in the future. He might have more luck, plus it won't land him in jail. You always know when a story starts out with Florida man, it's going to be a good one, and this one does not disappoint. So Johnny Yates was wanted by the Polk County Sheriff's Office on aggravated battery, false imprisonment, and tampering charges. Deputies showed up at his Lakewood home around 2:45 p.m. on a Saturday after getting a tip that he was holed up inside. When they arrived, they noticed a note written on a dry erase board in front of a window that said, "Johnny Yates does not live here." Well, I mean, clearly that makes sense. They should have just went back to the police station. Well, no, they were a little smarter. When they went into the home, they found him hiding in a cabinet. And this Florida man was eventually locked up. Number 3 is a good one. I promise you. You're going to be scratching your head thinking, what the heck? In 2010, Albert Bailey and an unnamed juvenile accomplice decided to rob a bank in Fairfield, Connecticut. But in an attempt to speed up the process of the crime, Bailey called the bank in advance to let them know that they were coming to rob it. Clearly, he was trying to be a good person, wanted to give the bank plenty of time to get the money together so they can just get in and get out. But, of course, that didn't happen. The bank decided to notify the authorities about the bank robbing appointment that was scheduled. And when the two men arrived, they were arrested without incident. In what world would this ever have worked? Like, I'm so curious to the thought process that was going through his mind to call the bank ahead of time. Okay, so these last two criminals, they're both equally as crazy. So really, they both deserve the top spot, but here's number 2. In 1995, a middle-aged man robbed 2 Pittsburgh's banks in broad daylight. He didn't wear a mask or any sort of disguise. He also smiled at the surveillance cameras before walking out of each bank. Like, what robber does that? Was he expecting or wanting to get caught? So later in the day, when the cops showed up at his house, he was actually quite surprised. They showed him the surveillance tapes. The robber just looked at them in disbelief. And then he mumbles to himself, "But I wore the juice." Apparently, MacArthur Wheeler truly believed that rubbing lemon juice on his skin would make him invisible to video cameras. Like, 1995 was well before the internet really was a big thing, so I'm curious to who would have told him this, since clearly it wasn't TikTok. All right, now on to number 1, James Blankinship. So while attempting to break in and rob his own mother's house during broad daylight, James got spooked and went to hide in the crawl space. When apprehended by the police, Blankinship was extremely stunned because he didn't think it was possible to be arrested for burglary during the day. So basically, he figured, since it's not nighttime, he can't get arrested. Who is giving these people such wacky ideas and false information? And why was he robbing his own mom's house? I have so many questions that need to be answered. So clearly this one has a lesson to be learned as well, and that lesson is to do your research before you go out and commit crimes. Maybe have a check to see what actually is legal and what's not illegal. It'll probably only take you about 15 minutes. Being a criminal is certainly not an easy life. And like I said, it's just not meant for everybody. So the moral of the story is, don't be a bad person, don't commit crimes, and then you won't have to go to jail. And you can avoid all this embarrassment by being on lists like this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have the most wonderful day and weekend. And remember, crime doesn't pay if you get caught.